You're still doing that internet thing? My brother David smirked across the Thanksgiving table, carving into his turkey with an air of superiority that only a Wall Street banker could muster. What is it again? Selling stuff on Amazon? I took a deep breath, reminding myself that engaging wasn't worth it. 5 years of these jabs had taught me patience, if nothing else. It's an e-commerce platform, I said quietly, reaching for the mashed potatoes. We help small businesses. Oh, honey, my mother interrupted, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Don't you think it's time to look for a real job? Your cousin Jessica's firm's hiring. My name is Olivia Walker, and for the past 5 years, I've been building what would become one of the most successful e-commerce platforms in the country. Not that my family would know it, to them, I was just their wayward daughter who'd thrown away a promising career in finance to play on the internet. Mom, I started, but my father cut me off with a wave of his hand. Enough, Olivia. This little hobby of yours has gone on long enough. You're 30 years old. It's time to grow up and join the real world. The real world. As if spending 18 hours a day building a company from scratch wasn't real enough. As if the thousands of businesses using my platform weren't real. As if the millions in revenue we were generating wasn't real money. But they didn't know about any of that. I'd stopped sharing details of my business with them years ago, when it became clear they weren't interested in understanding what I was building. To them, success only counted if it came with a corner office and a prestigious company name. Speaking of the real world, David chimed in. Did you hear about my latest deal? Closed it yesterday, biggest merger in the firm's history. My mother beamed, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. That's wonderful, darling. Will this mean another promotion? I pushed my food around my plate, letting their conversation wash over me. It was always like this. David's achievements celebrated, mine dismissed. He was following the path they understood. Prestigious college, Wall Street job, steady climb up the corporate ladder. I dared to do something different, and in their eyes that made me a failure. Later that evening, as I helped my mother clean up in the kitchen, she tried again. Olivia, sweetheart, I'm just worried about you. All this time alone, staring at computer screens. It's not healthy. I scrubbed a pan with more force than necessary. I'm not alone, Mom. I have a team now, 20 people actually. She paused, dish towel suspended midair. You have employees? Yes, I said, keeping my voice level. We moved into a real office space last month. For a moment, I saw a flicker of interest in her eyes. But it quickly disappeared. Well, that must be expensive. Are you sure you're not getting in over your head? And there it was, the constant doubt, the assumption that I couldn't possibly know what I was doing. I'd stopped telling them about my successes because their response was always the same. Concern, skepticism, and thinly veiled disapproval. I'm managing fine, I said shortly, putting the last dish in the drying rack. I should get going. Early meeting tomorrow. Meeting? My father scoffed from the doorway. With your computer? I grabbed my coat and purse, fighting back the urge to tell him exactly who my meeting was with, one of the largest venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. But what was the point? They'd made up their minds about my hobby long ago. The drive home gave me time to decompress, to shake off the weight of their disapproval. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend and COO, Maya. How was the family inquisition? I smiled despite myself. Same as always. David's a genius, I'm wasting my life. You know, the usual. If they only knew, she replied. Can't wait to see their faces when the news breaks. Ah yes, the news. The thing I'd been sitting on for weeks now, wanting to tell my family but knowing they wouldn't understand its significance. The Forbes article was scheduled to come out in less than a month, featuring our company in their annual 30 Under 30 list. But it wasn't just that. They were doing a full profile on our Me2Work rise in the e-commerce space. I pulled into my driveway, my modern townhouse a stark contrast to the modest suburban home I just left. Another sign of success I kept quiet about. My family still thought I lived in my starter apartment, barely making ends meet. Inside, I kicked off my heels and settled onto my couch, opening my laptop to check the day's numbers. Even on Thanksgiving, our platform never slept. The dashboard showed over $500,000 in transactions processed just today, a slow day given the holiday. 5 years ago, this had all been a dream. I was working 60-hour weeks at a prestigious financial firm, doing exactly what my parents wanted, and feeling completely unfulfilled. The idea for my platform came from watching small business owners struggle with online sales. They needed something simpler, more intuitive, more integrated than what was available. I started building it nights and weekends, learning to code through online courses, piecing together the foundation of what would become Walker Commerce. When I quit my job to pursue it full-time, my family thought I was having a mental breakdown. "She's throwing away everything she's worked for," I overheard my mother telling her friends. And for what? Some website. Those early days were brutal. Living on savings, working from my tiny apartment, dealing with endless technical challenges and skeptical potential clients. But slowly, steadily, it started to work. Small businesses signed up. The platform grew. Revenue started trickling in. I hired Maya first, my old college roommate who'd been quietly cheering me on from the beginning. She left her corporate job to join me, believing in my vision when even I had doubts. Together, we refined the platform, expanded our services, and started building a real company. My phone buzzed again. An email from our lead developer about a new feature launch. I responded quickly, then noticed another message from our PR team about the upcoming Forbes piece. They wanted to schedule a photo shoot next week. A photo shoot for Forbes magazine. Sometimes it still felt surreal. The next morning, I was in our office early as usual. The space was modern and open, with exposed brick walls and huge windows. A far cry from the corporate cubicles my family thought represented success. Our team would be in later, but I liked these quiet moments to focus on strategy. "You're here early," Maya said, walking in with 2 cups of coffee. She handed me one, settling into the chair across from my desk. Still recovering from family fun. I took a grateful sip, just the usual drama. Dad asked if I was still doing that internet thing. Maya rolled her eyes. "As opposed to what he's doing, running the same insurance agency his father started 50 years ago." "Hey," I protested weakly, "that's a real business." "Right," she laughed, "because helping thousands of small businesses succeed isn't real enough." She had a point. Our platform had processed over $100 million in transactions last month alone. We'd helped countless small businesses survive and thrive during the pandemic by giving them easy access to online sales. Our latest valuation put us at just over $500 million. But try explaining that to people who thought success meant wearing a suit and sitting in meetings all day. "The Forbes piece comes out in 3 weeks," Maya reminded me. "Have you decided how you're going to tell them?" I sighed, leaning back in my chair. "I was thinking of just letting them find out when it publishes. Is that petty? After 5 years of them dismissing everything you've built?" "No, it's not petty. It's karma." Our conversation was interrupted by the arrival of our development team, eager to show us the latest platform updates. Soon the office was buzzing with activity. Designers collaborating on user interface improvements, customer service reps helping clients optimize their stores, marketing team members planning our next campaign. This was my real world. A thriving company built from nothing but an idea and relentless determination. Every person here believed in what we were doing, understood the vision I had from the beginning. Unlike my family, they didn't need to see my name in Forbes to know we were building something extraordinary. Later that afternoon, I had a video call with our newest board member, a veteran tech entrepreneur who'd invested in our latest funding round. "The numbers look fantastic," he said, reviewing our monthly report. "You've built something remarkable here, Olivia. Not many founders can scale this fast while maintaining such strong fundamentals." I smiled, remembering my father's dismissive comments about my little hobby. "Thank you," I said. "We're just getting started." Indeed, the Forbes piece should help with visibility. Have you thought about how this might change things? I had thought about it, probably more than I should have. The article wouldn't just announce our inclusion in the 30 under 30 list. It would detail our growth, our valuation, our impact on the e-commerce landscape. It would make public everything I kept quiet about for years. "I'm prepared for the attention," I assured him. "We've got a solid PR strategy in place." What I didn't say was that I was more concerned about my family's reaction than any public scrutiny. How would they handle learning that their failing daughter had built a $500 million company right under their noses? That evening, as I worked late in my office, my mother called. I almost let it go to voicemail, but guilt won out. "Hi, Mom." "Olivia, honey, I've been thinking about what we discussed yesterday, she began, her voice taking on that careful tone she used when she thought she was being helpful. Jessica's firm really would be perfect for you. They even offer great benefits. I pinched the bridge of my nose, staring at the multiple monitors on my desk displaying our platform's real-time analytics. Over 10,000 transactions have been processed just in the time since she'd started talking. Mom, I appreciate the thought, but I'm not looking for a job. My business is doing well. But is it stable? Do you have health insurance? A retirement plan? These are important things, Olivia. I thought about our comprehensive benefits package, the equity all our employees received, the 401 matching we'd implemented last year. But explaining any of that would just lead to more questions I wasn't ready to answer. I'm fine, Mom. Really. She sighed, that heavy, disappointed sound I'd grown so used to. I just don't understand why you won't consider other options. Your brother. I have to go, I interrupted. I have a call with our West Coast team. After hanging up, I sat in silence for a moment, looking around my office. The wall opposite my desk displayed our company values in bold letters: innovation, integrity, impact. Below them hung framed articles from various tech publications praising our platform's innovations. None of them meant anything to my family. They weren't from the Wall Street Journal or Financial Times, so they didn't count. Maya stuck her head in, waving a tablet. Final approval needed on the Forbes photo shoot location. They want to do it here in the office. Thoughts? I nodded. Makes sense. Just make sure they get shots of the team, not just me. This isn't a one-woman show. Speaking of the team, she said, settling into a chair, morale is through the roof since we announced the new equity distribution. People are excited about the growth. Our latest funding round had allowed us to increase everyone's equity stakes, something I was particularly proud of. Everyone who helped build this company deserved to share in its success. That's good, I said, then hesitated. Maya, am I being childish about my family? Should I just tell them everything? She considered this for a moment. Remember when you first started and they told you it was just a phase? That you'd come crawling back to your real job within 6 months? I nodded. And remember when you landed your first major client and they said it was just luck? That you couldn't build a sustainable business on the internet? Yes. And remember last Thanksgiving, when your brother literally patted you on the head and said maybe you could help him build a website for his dog's Instagram? I couldn't help but laugh at that memory. Okay, I get your point. They've had 5 years to take an interest in what you're building, to ask real questions, to understand why you believed in this so much. They chose not to. Let them find out with everyone else. She was right, of course. My family's dismissal of my work wasn't just about lack of understanding, it was about lack of respect. They decided early on that my path wasn't valid, that success only counted if it followed their predetermined script. Well, they were about to learn just how wrong they'd been. The morning the Forbes article was scheduled to go live, I sat in my office, staring at my phone. 3 weeks had passed since Thanksgiving, and my family remained blissfully unaware of what was coming. I declined their weekly dinner invitations, citing work commitments, which wasn't entirely untrue. Preparing for the publicity around the Forbes piece had kept us all busy. It's live, Maya announced, bursting into my office with her tablet. And it's, wow. I took the tablet from her, my heart racing as I read the headline. The Future of E-Commerce. How Olivia Walker Built a $500 million empire from Her Apartment. The article was everything our PR team had hoped for and more. It detailed our company's explosive growth, our innovative approach to helping small businesses, and the impact we'd had on the e-commerce landscape. There were photos of our office, our team, and yes, me, described as the visionary founder revolutionizing online retail. Your phone's about to blow up, Maya warned just as it started buzzing with notifications. LinkedIn messages, Twitter mentions, email alerts, text messages from friends and former colleagues. But nothing yet from my family. They didn't exactly follow tech news. That changed about an hour later. Olivia, my mother's voice was shrill through the phone. Why is Jessica calling me asking about you being in Forbes magazine? I took a deep breath. Because I am in Forbes magazine, Mom. The article just came out this morning. But how? Why? What's this about a $500 million company? That would be my little hobby, I said, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. The one you and Dad have been telling me to quit for the past 5 years. Silence on the other end. Then, we're coming over. To your office. Right now. Mom, I have meetings. Cancel them, she interrupted. Your father and I, we need to see this for ourselves. I looked at my calendar, back-to-back calls with investors and partners interested in the Ford's coverage. I can't just cancel everything. I'm running a company, remember. Please, Olivia, her voice softened. We need to understand. I sighed, signaling to Maya through the glass wall of my office. She nodded, already understanding what I needed. Fine. Come at 2. I'll have my assistant send you the address. Assistant, my mother squeaked, but I'd already hung up. Maya stuck her head in. Family drama incoming. They're coming here at 2. Can you? Already rescheduling your afternoon, she finished. Want me to warn the team? I nodded. Our employees knew bits and pieces about my family situation. It was hard to hide when we all worked so closely together. Just let them know we'll have visitors. The next few hours were a blur of calls and emails, responding to the wave of interest generated by the Ford's piece. Our PR team was fielding media requests, our sales team was swamped with inquiries, and our servers were handling record traffic from people checking out the platform. At exactly 2 p.m., the elevator doors opened and my parents stepped into our office. Their expressions as they took in the space, the modern decor, the bustling workforce, the wall of press mentions, were almost comical. Ms. Walker, our receptionist called out, your parents are here. Heads turned throughout the office. I could feel my team watching, curious about the family they'd heard so much about. I stepped out of my office to greet them. Mom, Dad, welcome to Walker Commerce. My mother was clutching her purse like a lifeline, her eyes darting around the space. My father stood rigid, his face unreadable. This is all yours, he asked. Yes, I said simply. Would you like a tour? I led them through the office, explaining each department's function, introducing key team members. Maya joined us partway through, adding context about our growth and achievements. So when you said you had employees, my mother trailed off, watching our development team collaborate on a new feature. We have 78 full-time employees now, I supplied, plus contractors and part-time staff. 78? My father's voice cracked slightly. We ended up in my office, where I gestured for them to sit. The Ford's article was still open on one of my monitors, and my father's eyes locked onto it. $500 million, he said quietly. Your company is worth $500 million. As of our last valuation round, yes. I sat behind my desk, feeling strangely calm. That was 2 months ago. Given the Ford's coverage, it's probably higher now. My mother was shaking her head slowly. But? How? When? Why did you tell us? When would you have listened? I asked. When I started the company, you told me I was throwing my life away. When I landed my first major clients, you told me it was just luck. When I hired my first employees, you worried I was getting in over my head. We were concerned, my father defended. The internet, it's not stable. We wanted you to have a real career. This is a real career, Dad. Look around you. This is as real as it gets. Just then, Maya knocked and entered with a tablet. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. CNBC wants to do a live interview tomorrow morning. I glanced at the email she was showing me. Book it and get PR to prep a briefing. My parents watched this exchange with wide eyes, seemingly struggling to reconcile this version of me, the CEO, the decision maker, with their image of their failing daughter. All this time, my mother said softly, when we thought you were struggling, you were building this. Yes, Mom. All those family dinners where you pushed job listings at me. I was already employing dozens of people. All those times you worried about my stability. I was raising millions in venture capital. All those moments you compared me to David. I was building something bigger than his entire firm. My father flinched at that. Olivia, you didn't believe in me, I finished. You didn't even try to understand what I was doing. You just decided I was failing because I chose a different path. That's not fair, he protested. We wanted to protect you. No, I said firmly. You wanted to control me. You wanted me to follow your definition of success. But look where I am now. I did this my way, without your support, without your approval, without your help. My mother was crying silently now, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. My father looked lost, his usual confidence shattered. I think, he said slowly, we owe you an apology. Several, actually, Maya muttered from the doorway. I shot her a look, but couldn't help smiling. Why didn't you tell us? My mother asked again. About any of this. I leaned back in my chair, considering the question. Would it have changed anything? Would you have suddenly understood what I was building? Would you have stopped pushing me to get a real job? They exchanged glances, unable to answer. That's what I thought, I said. I stopped telling you about my successes because you'd already decided I was failing. Nothing I said would have changed your minds until something like this. I gestured to the Forbes article, forced you to see the truth. Just then, my phone buzzed with another notification. I have a call with Singapore in 5 minutes, I said, standing. Maya can show you out. Singapore. My father repeated weakly. We're expanding into Asian markets, I explained. The call's with our new regional partners. My mother stood, clutching her purse. Olivia, please, can we have dinner tonight? As a family? We need to talk about all this. I looked at them, really looked at them. My father, who'd spent years telling me I was wasting my potential. My mother, who'd worried I was throwing my life away. They looked smaller somehow, their certainty about the world and their place in it shaken. I can't tonight, I said. We're having a company celebration for the Forbes piece, but maybe this weekend. They nodded, accepting this small concession. As they turned to leave, my father paused at the door. We were wrong, he said quietly, about everything. I hope you can forgive us. After they left, Maya returned to my office. Well, that was intense. I laughed, but it came out shaky. 5 years of dismissal and doubt, ended by one magazine article. Not just any article, she corrected. A Forbes profile about the $500 million company their failing daughter built while they weren't paying attention. That evening, at the company celebration, I looked around at my real family, the team that had believed in me, worked with me, helped build this dream into reality. We'd done this together, proving that success doesn't always look like what others expect it to. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Just saw the Forbes piece. Holy shit, sis. Why didn't you say anything? I smiled, typing back. You mean about my little internet hobby? The next few weeks were a whirlwind of media appearances, speaking engagements, and endless congratulatory messages. My parents attended every interview they could find, sitting in the audience with expressions somewhere between pride and embarrassment. At the first family dinner after the Forbes reveal, the dynamic was completely different. Gone were the job suggestions and worried looks. Instead, they asked real questions about the business, actually listening to my answers. I still can't believe it, my mother said, passing the salad. All this time when you thought I was failing. I finished. Maybe that's the lesson here. Success doesn't always look the way you expect it to. David, who'd flown in specially for the dinner, shook his head. I feel like such an idiot. All those times I made fun of your website. You were an idiot, I agreed cheerfully. But at least you admit it now. My father cleared his throat. Olivia, I've been thinking. The agency, maybe it's time we looked at modernizing our systems. If you think your platform could help. I smiled, remembering all the times he dismissed online business as a fad. I'll have my team reach out to you next week. We have a great solution for insurance agencies. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. The daughter they thought was failing was now in a position to help modernize the family business. Later that night, as I drove home, I thought about how success is often quietest just before it becomes undeniable. For years, I'd worked in relative obscurity, building something my family couldn't understand or appreciate. But I believed in my vision, even when no one else did. My phone buzzed with a message from Maya. CNBC tomorrow morning. Ready to shock more people who underestimated you? I smiled, thinking about all the other dreamers out there, facing their own doubting families, their own uphill battles. Maybe my story would help them hold onto their vision, even when everyone else called it a hobby. Because sometimes the biggest success stories start with someone saying, "You'll never make it," and one person deciding to prove them wrong.